First of all, thanks everyone for joining us for this month's webinar for our safety webinar, which is surviving a roadside inspection, and also a little bit about the new med card. And I believe Kevin's got a few other little points that he's going to point out over the next hour and a half for us. Kevin Elrod, he's been with us before on several occasions. I would like to call him a great partner, a very knowledgeable partner. He's now the CEO of Spartan Transportation. A little bit about him. He grew up in North Georgia in the front lines of transportation safety. He built a career rooted in hard work, discipline, and a deep understanding of the motor carrier industry. At 14 years old, Kevin learned the art of commercial driving, which we're not going to tell anyone, and helping his father haul grain at an early experience laid the foundation for his future in transportation. He then served our country in the United States Army for 27 years, and for that, we're appreciative of that. Serving as an Airborne Infantryman, a drill sergeant, and a combat veteran, instilling leadership, resilience, and a commitment to excellence. After his retirement from the military, Kevin returned to his roots, spending 2 years behind the wheel as a commercial driver before advancing into dispatch, operations management, and ultimately serving as the safety director for a 600 power unit carrier. Recognizing the importance of safety and the compliance in the industry, Kevin transitioned to a pivotal role with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration as a safety investigator, where he has conducted roadside inspections, compliance audits, and crash investigations. His leadership within the FMCSA extends to serving as chairman of the Intermodal Equipment Provider TAG, as well as IEP investigation team lead and hours of service subject matter expert. With a lifetime of experience spanning military service, commercial driving, operations, and regulatory oversight, Kevin brings an unmatched level of expertise to the transportation industry. His mission is to help carriers navigate risk management, ensure compliance, and develop strategies that keep them moving forward safely and efficiently. So it's my honor, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Kevin Elrod, and at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Well, I appreciate that, Joseph. I really do. And Joseph, on a light note, you got a pencil in front of you?
I do.
Can you write this
I
down?
can.
844-837-5500. That is the number that you need to call straight from the major at MCCD to get where you need to go on a job site without having to go around the world to get to your area.
Okay. I appreciate that, sir.
Mm-hmm. Well, Joseph, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody being here. The biggest experience I got in trucking and everything else is none. I'll be honest with you. Every day you wake up, the trucking industry's changed. I went to a seminar, funny story. I went to a seminar for the Carolina Ready Mix Concrete Association and found out real quick that the old days when I grew up with the centers up in Oakwood, Georgia, and Gainesville, Keith Center and all them up there, Richard Center and RS Trucking, that the days in the 80s when you called it a concrete truck, apparently that is not politically correct. And I will not do that again. I promise you. I will never, ever call it a concrete truck, never again. It is a mixer, and I apologize if I ever said anything wrong in that industry. I know I was a tanker yanker when I was driving over the road, and I hauled smoothbore tankers with food grade cooking oils, hot sauce, everything else in it. And people call tankers a lot of stuff except for a tanker. So I got it. But anyway, today I was going to go over roadside inspections basically and how to survive them. I just retired from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration back in May, and like you said, I just started my own consulting company because I felt like I had more to give to the industry. The agency has broadened itself. The agency has gotten a lot bigger and what I call ballsy. They have really started looking at entities that they did not look at before. So they're really paying attention to loggers using containers and things like that to go into ports and still taking the logging exemption. And now they're not allowing that to happen. That's interstate commerce, and that logging company is going to face the music like everybody else. They are really focusing in on mixer companies. We have had 2 mixer fatalities down here in Savannah. I live right outside of Savannah. If any of you know anything about Pooler, Georgia, or Springfield, Rankin, Savannah area, I live in Springfield. So I'm just far enough out of Chatham County that I can't smell it. But we've had 2 really bad fatal mixer accidents down here, and it's really caught the attention of motor carrier compliance. Had one in Conyers early in the year, and that really caught the attention. So in the next 6 to 8 months, and when all these safe driving things start coming out, and the more you're getting into building these warehouses and this industry's coming as building like it is, you're going to start seeing your drivers get a lot more roadside inspections. It's just going to happen, because the safety aspect of some of these accidents that have been happening are the mixer drivers' fault. Their maintenance isn't where it needs to be. They're on their phones. They don't have phones in cradles. Just any little thing that roadside can find is where they're going to get you. I mean, they're just going to get you. Now, they're not out to target you, but where you used to be, like the trash trucks, nobody wants to crawl under a trash truck, measure brakes, and nobody wants to crawl under a cement mixer and measure brakes. Now they've got a different plan with that. Now you're going to start getting your brakes measured. You're going to start going through full inspections. They understand the time that drum's spinning and that concrete's getting hot in there, that cement's getting hot in there. They understand that, but they also understand that they've got to save lives. So they're starting to change their patterns a little bit. So I want to start with a presentation that I had put together. And I have got to figure out how to do this. Give me just a second. Let's see. Share screen. Like I say, I'm doing Google, and Google is not my friend. So here we go. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
You can, okay. I'm trying to make it. All right, here we go. So that is not the slide that we wanted to start on, and forgive me for this. But that is a good slide to start on. The first slide was actually my introductory slide, but the next slide is, that is can everybody see the picture of the accident?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a picture of the latest fatality we had down here with a mixer truck. There is if you put that in there, into focus, there is a silver car in between the dump truck and the mixer, in between the guy with the yellow vest and the firefighter down here shoveling up some of the debris. You will see a car there, and that car housed a mother, a 36-year-old mother who was pregnant and had her 6-year-old daughter in the car with her, all 3 deceased on the scene. But these are the types of accidents that are getting the attention of motor carrier compliance. Cement mixers coming down the road, you can see that it had been raining. The road was not wet anymore, but it had been raining. It was very overcast. It was sprinkling at the time of the accident. The roadway had not gotten wet yet, but the truck had a cammed over brake. The driver was on his cell phone at the time of the crash and did not stop before he hit in the car and running the car underneath the dump truck. In return, running the dump truck into the pickup truck that was in front of him, sending that man to the hospital with a broken neck. So very bad accident, a lot of exposure. That's the key, is a lot of exposure. So the one way to survive a roadside inspection is to make sure your drivers understand the importance of what their job is. And their job when they're in the cab of that truck is not to be on the phone, not to be worried about what's going on Facebook, TikTok, whatever they're doing. They need to make sure they're checking mirrors every 3 to 5 seconds. They're watching what's around them. They're keeping a 6-second following distance. They're making sure that drum is not way up, spinning so high that it's getting them off balance. They need to make sure before they're getting in that truck, while they're waiting in line to load under your load head or anything like that, they need to utilize that time and be productive and get out and check those tires. Make sure that last job site you didn't get a big root stuck in your tire and you got one tire that's flat or one tire that's low. Take a minute to walk around and make sure your lights don't have dirt, concrete, anything on it that's going to obscure the view of that light to somebody behind them that may not see it and run up underneath the back of that truck. It is amazing how you can check a truck out before you go and load it while you're waiting in line to load. End of the day, great time to do a good post trip on that truck. And we'll go over that. But I just put together an SOP for a large mixer company. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Titan America, but just put together a good SOP for them. And they're actually training their drivers this week on the new SOP and trying to cut down the scores of a lot of the plants that they have where they're getting a lot of inspections. So roadside inspections, how drivers and vehicles are selected for inspection, the regulatory areas being looked at during the process, the procedures involved in an inspection, and what is expected of that driver during that inspection. I'll tell you, the very first thing you look at right there, how drivers and vehicles are selected for an inspection. If you have a USDOT number, you have what they call an inspection selection score. It's ISS. If and when you pull up your portal and you look at your scores, you look at your basics, you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of that page, you have an ISS score. And that score will have a number under it. And underneath that, you're going to have a pass, a pass, or a pull in, not mandatory. That means that the officer can decide whether to pull you in or not pull you in, or pull you over or not pull you over. And then you have mandatory under that, which means if an officer sees you and sees that tag, they're going to pull you over because your scores say that you need to be pulled in. Regulatory areas being looked at during the process. I encourage everyone to pull out their regulatory compliance book. If you don't have one, you can contact me. I can order you one and send it to you. The spirals are right around $100, but if you can get in touch with JJ Keller, I use a company called Mancom, MANCOMM, to get my regulatory compliance books. But if you pull up part 396 in there, which is your vehicle maintenance, and 393, but go to Appendix G, that is going to tell you. So when you look at an annual inspection form, that is a level 1 inspection. And when you go to Appendix G, it tells the officer step by step what they need to look at, how they need to gauge those tires. Do they need to gauge them first? No. Do they need to check them to see if they're flat? Yes. Are they underinflated? Look at the load rate on the tire. Do you have too much on that load on that tire? Things of that nature. So that's what they're looking at. Procedures involved in an inspection is 365 degrees. We're going to start with the driver first. We're going to work our way back, look at lights. Once we look at lights, we're going to test your windshield wipers, and we're going to test your washer fluid. We're going to go from there. We're going to go to open the hood, and I want to look and see if you have any active blowing leaks, like if you've got a valve seal, or you got some kind of a seal that's busted. I'm going to see if you're blowing oil. if you're blowing oil out of the rear, if the rear main looks like it's leaking, anything that could be leaking on there, then I'm going to get them to turn it off. I'm going to listen for air leaks. I'm going to look to see if that radiator is leaking out of the cap. I'm going to get it to turn back and forth. Now this is during the time that it's cranked up. I'm going to get them to pivot those wheels back and forth on steer axles. I want to see if you're blowing fluid out of that power steering reservoir. Then we're going to turn it off and we're going to look for leaks. And while I'm checking this truck, we're going through and measuring brakes and doing everything we're doing for the next 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to wait and see underneath the truck. I'm going to take a picture of the concrete under the engine. And if I can get anything bigger than a $50 puddle before you leave, I'm going to put you out of service for an active leak that could cause a breakdown. And that's the procedures we're doing when we go through it. And what's expected of the driver? Professionalism. Professionalism from a driver, answering questions politely, not arguing, keeping a clean cab, clean as you can. We understand that it's going to have dirt and stuff, but all the trash and everything that goes along with it, making sure the fire extinguisher is secure, making sure that you have 3 operational triangles in the truck, and that driver knows what to answer when asked for his hours of service. Does he use a log? Does he use an e-log? Is he on a timesheet? Can you give me the number to your company so I can call and just get them to shoot me a copy of your timesheet for this week so I can see when you started today and how you've been the last few days? Things of that nature. Just being cooperative is the best rule of thumb there. Pre and post trip inspections. This is how you survive. You take a pre and post trip inspection and you cover the parts listed here, your service breaks. If you are hauling, and I know some of you have the tractor trailers that are going to haul the cement, the flash, things of that nature, maybe even a water truck, stuff like that. They need to be checking those trailer brake connections, those air lines, making sure there's no leaks in them. Mixers the same way. Let's make sure that all those brake lines, you're not sitting listening to air, because that's one of the things we'll listen to when you're pulling into a scale or coming by us on a little road or into a job site, is leaking air, that hissing, the sound. Parking brake, steering mechanisms, making sure those steering knuckles don't have any welds on them at all. It's not allowed. Lighting devices and reflectors. Do your reflectors, are they caked up with dirt? Do they have enough splash from the cement when it's coming out the chutes, or when it's going into the back of a pump truck or anything? Is it splashing up on your lights and your reflectors to where it's caking up on it to where it would obscure the vision of that light when it's activated? Your tires are a big thing. Do you require your drivers to gauge those tires to check the air in them? Or is there a process to check the air in them? One of the mixer accidents we had that I worked early in the year was a mixer driver that the steer tire blew out while he was loaded. Couldn't handle the truck. Truck went off, hit a tree, killed the driver. But that steer tire had been written up by that driver twice in a DVIR, but that cement had to get going. This job site could not have a break in that pump truck because it was going to be charging them every time that they had to sit there and wait. Well, that load never made it. So I hope it was worth every dime that they saved by making sure that that tire was still on that truck and still moving. Horns. It is true that only one horn, you have an air horn and a city horn on the steering wheel. It is true that one of them has to work to not be out of service, but you're still going to get a violation. They're both required, but if both are out, it's out of service. If one is out, it's a violation, but it's not out of service. Same thing with your air gauges. When you're pumping your brakes, when drivers should be doing a bleed down test at least once a week, just to check that button to make sure that that button's popping out. When they're going down with that pedal in that air, that alarm needs to sound, the gauge needs to be active, and the light has to come on. 2 of those 3 must be active to not be out of service. If 2 of the 3 are not working, then the truck's out of service and it's going to be towed. Windshield wipers, they must have blades on them. No, these aren't mixer drivers. These are other trucks. No telling how many times I've seen the blue towels that you get at the fuel island wrapped around an arm with some zip ties holding it on to wipe off the water until I can get a windshield wiper. It's amazing, but you really see it. Rear vision mirrors not held on by zip ties and clamps and not broken. They must be able to visually see the cars behind you and beside you. Coupling devices, again, for these that you have tractor trailers, those fifth wheel arms, make sure that those locking arms are operable and have been greased. Look at the fifth wheels where they are mounted. Make sure use an LED light, best way to find it. And that's why I always used it when I was doing roadside inspections with the feds. The LED light can go down through there and make sure there are no stress cracks between those bolts holding that fifth wheel on. Make sure the fifth wheel is greased. Make sure that when that kingpin hits, that kingpin lock is actually coming all the way across and it's not loose to where you could bounce that kingpin out or high hook it too much. Wheels and rims, big thing. Making sure that where those lug nuts are and where they're tightened up, you don't have stress cracks. A lot of people are going to aluminum rims, which is great. You know, save a little money, go to aluminum rims. Some people cost more than the old steel wheels, but look for the stress cracks. They usually show up in between two of the studs, right in that little area between the studs as it goes around the wheel. A lot of times it's there. Does the rim of the wheel itself, is it bent to where that bead for the tire may lose air when it hits, or when it's sitting on top of like a speed breaker, things of that nature that can take and swell out the sidewalls of those tires where they flex, and that little bend in that rim, is it going to allow air to escape or a blowout? Emergency equipment, again, and a fire extinguisher that is charged and is mounted. It can't just be sitting in a box in the floorboard. You will get credit for having it, but you will get written up for it not being mounted. Equipment inspection and use, right here. No commercial motor vehicle shall be driven unless the driver is satisfied that the following parts and accessories are in good working order, nor shall any driver fail to use, make, or use of such parts and accessories when and as needed. So right in here, you've got all the same things you just saw, but this is basically your pre-trip. Back here, one, you have your post-trip inspection. This is what should be going on at the completion, as it says there, to prepare a report in writing at the completion of each day's work. So if the drivers are driving the same truck every single day, I know sometimes they swap in and out, but if you're driving the same truck every day, which is common, or unless you're slip seating because you got a 24-hour operation, when they're driving that same truck, they do that post-trip that night. Always ask that question. Is it possible for my truck's tire to go flat during the day or at night while I'm gone? Is it possible for my oil to just start leaking out terrible while I'm gone that night? Once this thing cools off, you're going to see that a lot of times when those seals relax and everything relaxes, that's when you're going to show your leaks. So look at your truck when you're walking up to it, and you do this pre-trip inspection in the morning, because you have to be satisfied that your post-trip that you did the night before is still in good order. And the only way to do that is to walk around and check everything. A post-trip should last a lot longer than a pre-trip, but in my book, both of them are equally important. Report content. Here's a big part. All this is about preparing to go on the road so you can survive a roadside inspection. The report, the DVIR, must identify the vehicle and list any defect or deficiency discovered or reported to. So case in point, I've got a mixer and I'm all cranked up and I've checked mine out or whatever, and I walk behind, one of my buddies is working there with me, and I hear a little hissing coming out the back. I need to go tell that driver about that hissing. It's my responsibility. and have that checked out. And that driver now has a responsibility for placing that on a DVIR to have it looked at and repaired, or for the mechanic to say that it does not need to be repaired until the driver gets back, which would be ridiculous on an air leak. Drivers are not required to prepare a report if a defect or deficiency is discovered or reported by the driver, if no defect. So this is the paper saving part of the government. If you have a policy that says a DVIR must be completed at the beginning and end of each workday, then your policy overrides what the U.S. government requires right there, and you are well within your rights. And it is a very, very, very good practice to make sure that those DVIRs are being done each day. Because what will happen is when you get on roadside and, Joe Driver pulls up and he's got an air leak and he's got a tire that's underinflated, and he left your plant 20 minutes ago and he didn't do a DVIR because nothing was wrong, they're going to cite the driver for failure to perform a proper pre-trip that morning, and they're going to place him out of service. So having it is better than not having it. The driver must sign the report. On 2 driver operations, only 1 driver needs to sign. That's a team driver thing. It's not required, not to you. Corrective action prior to requiring or permitting a driver to operate a vehicle. This is where you, the company, is cited by the FMCSA. Prior to requiring or permitting a driver to operate a vehicle, every motor carrier or its agent shall repair any defect or deficiency listed on the driver vehicle inspection report, which would be likely to affect the safety of operation of the vehicle. 2 weeks ago, I went to a plant and went through, and this was in Florida, I went to a plant and went through their DVIR process. And they had 161 DVIRs that have defects on them, and none of the defects, let me repeat that, not one defect have been corrected yet. Truck still got lights out, truck still got air leaks, truck still has a brake pad that's not right, but they got to move that product and they got to make the money. Always remember, profit over safety will cost you in the end. It will every time. It never fails. It is karma that will come back every time. Every motor carrier or its agent shall certify on the driver vehicle inspection report, which lists any defect, that the defect or deficiency has been repaired or that repair is unnecessary for the vehicle's operated again. Retention periods. We keep these DVIRs for 90 days. And my advice to you is, after 90 days, if anybody ever comes in and asks for one during a FMCSA review or a state review, and it's 95 days old, you tell them that you don't have it. 90 days is your retention period, and after 90 days, get rid of your DVIR, because that's as long as you're supposed to keep it. My advice from being an investigator that used to request them, make sure you understand, if it's over 90 days and an attorney's not holding on to it for any reason, you get rid of the DVIR.
Kevin.
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt you, but are you going down your slides? Because we're still on the first slide on our side.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on slide 7. I don't know why it's not. Are you looking at the presentation part of it, or are
On
you?
the presentation part, yes.
Well, I apologize. So which slide are you looking at?
The very first, the one with the cement mixer, the incident that you were talking about at the very beginning.
Okay. All right. Let me end that for a second.
Now it changed.
What do you see now?
It looks like slide 3.
Slide 3.
Yep.
Okay, let me ask you, when I do this, do you still see slide 3?
Yes.
Did it change at all?
I don't think so.
Are you still seeing the slides to the left over there, then the big slide in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you. Did it change then?
It went to 4.
Okay, all right. Not sure why it's not sharing it on this screen over here, but I'll just go with this. This is what we'll go with.
Anna, is that your question? I know you had your hand raised.
Yes, that was it. I actually emailed Emily.
Okay. All right. Maybe
Thank
we can
you.
get it. Maybe we can get it working. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yep. Sorry about that. I was unaware that that was going on. My apologies. So basically what I have done is I have gone over and covered all of this. And the slideshow is available for you. You know, after this is over, I can email this to Joseph if he wants to get out to anybody. But I was on slide 7 here. But these are the slides I was going through, and this is straight out of the regulatory compliance book. So it is verbatim. So right here you have in the regulatory compliance book, to prepare for roadside inspections, you have what they call interpretations, gray area questions. And the FMCSA it answers those questions. So there's 396.11 where the DVIR is require the DVIR to be turned in each day by a driver dispatched on a trip more than 1 day's duration. So if you had a driver that's running more than 2 days, that driver is still required to turn that in. And it doesn't relieve the carrier of the responsibility of having it, but I don't think a lot of you have 2 day, 3 day, 4 day drivers. Does 396.11 require the power unit and the trailer to be inspected? A driver must be satisfied that both the power unit and trailer are in safe operating condition before operating the combination. May more than one power unit be included on the DVIR if 2 or more units are used by a driver for 1 day's work. So if a driver is in a mixer and then gets into a pump truck that afternoon, or a belt truck, or maybe a tractor trailer, each one of those, it says a separate DVIR must be prepared for each power unit operated during the day's work. If you drop a trailer and pick up another trailer, so you got one that goes and gets flash and one that goes and gets cement, each one of those trailers must have a separate DVIR done on it. So this in bulk here and here is the best way to survive a roadside inspection. So I was going to give you a little scenario of what happens when I pull you in or when I pull you over. The very first thing I'm going to ask the driver, and this is common with everyone, is when did you start this morning? What time did you start this morning? If it's 1 a.m. and we're at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, probably about to have problems. If driver started at 5 a.m. and we're at 10 a.m., we're doing good. I'm going to ask the driver, do you have an ELD? Do you have paper logs? Do you do a timesheet? Like I said earlier, ask for the number to the company to send me a copy of the timesheet so I can see when this driver started this morning actually. Not say I didn't believe the driver. I just need to confirm. You just have to verify and confirm. I'm going to look while I'm in the truck with them, standing on the side step with the door open, because I'll never do it with the window open. The door's going to come up. See if the driver has it. And I'm also going to ask the driver if they have their fire extinguisher and their triangles.
The second time, I took a really easy.
So when I exit the vehicle, I'm going to tell the driver to go ahead and put their flashers on. We're going to go to the back, check the four ways, check the turn signals, check the brake lights. We're going to check headlights, high beams, low beams, turn signals, four ways, running lights, marker lights. Then I'm going to tell them to do
Hold on just a second.
bright lights. And then I'm going to
Hold on just a second, Kevin. Hold on. Hey, Chris, could you mute yourself, please?
Sorry about that. And then once we're done there, I'm going to ask the driver to get out, open the hood, and that's where we're going to have the running engine. And we're going to have anything that I find, I want the driver to be standing there. I want to point it out. I want to make sure the driver's with me when I do this inspection. I want to make sure the driver understands what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and what we find. So the inspection will follow from there. We'll go through and we'll check every reflector and every light. I want them to walk around with me and look at that. Then I want them to turn the engine off. I'm going to show them, explain to them why I'm pulling on their belts to see if they're worn, frayed, or loose. I want to check, make sure all their caps are secure. And then I want to start looking at the knuckle on the steering arm. And then I'm going to ask them to get up in the truck, sit there while I check the steering wheel lash, and that's how much play is in the steering wheel. In Appendix G, you will have a graph, and that graph will show you how much play you're allowed to have in a steering wheel, depending on its size and type on the inside of that truck, how to measure it, and what would be out of service. Some steering wheels have so much play in it, driver's not going to go anywhere. But all of that is included in a roadside inspection. Then we're going to do a bleed down test on the brakes. We're going to take and we're going to chalk the wheel. We're going to get up in the cab, run the truck till it's up to 100, 105 PSI. We're going to take the truck and we're going to push the park brake in, and we're going to stomp the brake until I start seeing gauges activate. We're going to see a light come on. We're going to see a buzzer come on. We're going to watch the needle start progressing down towards the lower numbers. And when it gets down to a certain point, we need to see that yellow park brake button pop out. It doesn't need to ease itself out. And if it doesn't come out at all, then truck's out of service. That's bleed down test drivers should be doing once a week on their own. Then we're going to go around and we're going to check rims. We're going to check tires. We're going to check lug nuts, studs. We're going to check coupling devices if it's a trailer. But I'm going to gauge each tire and see how much air is in it. I'm going to check the load rate and probably pull a little scale out, let them back up on it and see what the weight is. Then we're going to start checking the securement of your chutes while we're walking around. So your chutes and any dunnage on the side, we're going to make sure that those straps are good. They're not dry rotted and in need of repair or replacement. And your chutes on the back are secured and the locks are holding them where they should go. Been around a lot of mixers going down the road and the back looks like a tail wagon with that thing back there just swinging back and forth. But then we're going to get ready for the brakes and the undercarriage. And that's where the driver is going to get in. The engine's going to be off. Wheels are going to be chalked. I'm going to get in and I'm going to ask the driver to activate the brake pedal so I can, in return, measure the push rod travel for the slack adjusters on the brake chambers by measuring the brake chambers. That is in a nutshell what that roadside inspection is going to be like. And if any violations are found, I will, and roadside officers should go around and show the drivers all of the inspection criteria, what was found, what that violation is, so they can explain it to the carrier. And if the driver has any questions, that's the time for the driver to question, but do it respectfully. And the officer or myself back then would be happy to explain it, crawl up under there to show you how it's done, things of that nature. So what will get you pulled over? This right here will get you pulled over quicker than anything. Unsafe driving. Every commercial motor vehicle must be operated in accordance with the laws, ordinances, and regulations of the jurisdiction in which it is being operated. That means any federal laws, any state highway laws, any city ordinances, any city laws, county law. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're on an Indian reservation and they have a speed limit, you better mind it. Because under the federal regulations, we can cite you for any state, local, city, county, municipality. We can cite you for speeding violations, unsafe driving acts such as following too close, things of that nature, third lane, changing lanes without turn signals, any unsafe act. 392.3, ill or fatigued driver. No driver shall operate a commercial motor vehicle, and a motor carrier shall not require or permit a driver to operate a commercial motor vehicle when the driver's ability and alertness is so impaired or so likely to become impaired through fatigue, illness, or any other cause as to make it unsafe for him or her to continue to operate the commercial motor vehicle. However, in a case of grave emergency, where the hazard to the occupants of the commercial motor vehicle or other users of the highway would be increased by compliance with this section, the driver may continue to operate the commercial motor vehicle to the nearest place at which the hazard is removed. So if a driver calls you and says, hey, I'm on the side of the road right here, I'm sick, I've got a stomach bug or something, I've been out throwing up on the side of the road, I feel weak all of a sudden, I don't know, but they're right on the side of the highway. If they're within distance, you can take another driver out there to recover that truck. That's the first option you should take. But if you ask the driver, hey, driver, I'm going to ask you this on a recorded line. Do you think you can make it down to the next exit? Do you think you can make it down to the next truck stop or to anywhere you could pull off the side of that highway where it's safe and doesn't have a low shoulder or anything because of the weight and the size and the height of that vehicle being so susceptible to roll over? Do you think you could safely do that? I think I can. Okay, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to make sure that I'm on Bluetooth with you while you're doing it, and I want you to talk to me the entire time that you're driving it down the road. That is helping that driver stay alert and not be by themselves in a quiet truck. Well, no truck quiet, but having just the hum of the tires or something, especially if they're in a bad shape. And that way you can know something needs to be stopped right when it needs to be stopped by the driver's reactions. .392.6 schedules to conform with speed limits. Again, not going to beat a dead horse, but the speed limits aren't a suggestion, they're a law. Now, can the county and the city give you a ticket for, now this is a question for anybody, can they give you a citation if you are going, say the speed limit is 55 and you're going 58 miles an hour? Can a city and a county officer give you a citation?
Yes.
I've been told no.
Right. It's city and county ordinances cannot offer a citation or write a ticket until you're 10 or better. Georgia State Patrol, motor carrier compliance, they can write you for a 1 over. They have no limit because they don't build revenue. That's why you can't write the citation as a county or city. Georgia State Patrol writes you a ticket in Barrow County, Georgia. Barrow County is the one that makes the money off of that. Motor carrier compliance, Georgia State Patrol, any county they're in, when they write the ticket, that's the county that it will go to. So they're not making revenue, so they can pick you at 1 over if they want. County and city, if it's in Cartersville, Georgia, the city of Cartersville, they're not going to be able to write you a ticket until you're 10 or better. Don't use that as an okay to do it. Just understand that if it's 4, 5, 6 miles an hour over, you're probably safer than you are running 11, 12, 15 over. We understand that downhills are a lot more. There's a lot more hills up there than there are down here. But I know in Gainesville, you got quite a few hills. And if you're in a mixer and you're heavy, it's tough to get it stopped or to get it slowed down. But you got to understand to use that low gear and go down that hill and mind that speed limit, because this will get you pulled over quicker than anything. Distracted driving, prohibition against texting. So here lies one of the biggest problems that I saw when I was doing roadside inspections. See a driver on the phone texting, riding down the road, pull him in. And you got to understand, I didn't have a black car that had all the big lights and whistles on it. I had a Federal car that had the little blue lights in the hood up there, and that was about all it was. But you pull a driver in, and that driver says, well, I was texting my dispatch because they were telling me what I needed to do, or where I needed to go. So is it a good idea to text drivers? If you text a driver and they answer you, check a GPS if you've got one and find out if they were texting while they were driving. Now, should you write them up for texting while they're driving? Probably. but you sent them a message to answer while they were driving. So you kind of got to look at it from both sides. Could you have waited till the driver got there to tell them what they needed to know? Are your drivers required to have a headset, Bluetooth, and do you require your drivers for their phone to be mounted in a cradle, whether they're using it for an ELD or not? If you do require that it is a hands-free total, then maybe you should call the driver and say, hey, driver, I need you to contact me when you get to where you're in a good, safe location, stopped and not on the highway, and I'll text you your information. That way you can confirm. But doing it while they're going down the road, I can cite a driver, or I would cite a driver by looking at the text messages sent by dispatch, because I had access to that. I can look at the text messages dispatch sent you, and I can look at your GPS on your truck, real simple to get, and see that you were operating while texting, and I'll write you a citation for it. So keeping those cell phones out of the hands of drivers should be something that is just preached day after day after day. Using a handheld mobile device. Can't even have the phone in your hand. Georgia has a hands-free law anyway. So every driver should do everything they can to make sure, in conclusion of this part, to make sure they're doing everything to survive that roadside inspection. Check that truck every night when you get back. And when I went to this company to write their SOP, I went to one of their yards and I looked to see how everything was, where everything was at. And I realized that when they get up under the chute to run the water down in the drum at the end of the day, and they're going to run around, they're going to go over to the pit where they're going to dump the water, while that drum's sitting there washing out, put on your flashers, utilize your time, put on those flashers, get an SOP started where drivers go around and go ahead and look at, because you're not going to do it in the back because you don't want to get covered up with all that. But that's a good time to go ahead and look at the front while it's sitting there spinning. Look at the front. Do you see anything pouring out the bottom while it's sitting there running? Do your flashers work? Your headlights work? Go around and gauge your steer tires while you're up there. Look at your chutes on the side and everything. Make sure they're strapped good and the straps are good on it. You got a quarter of your post trip already finished. Look at your windshield. Make sure it's not cracked or broken. Look at your windshield wipers. Make sure that while you're sitting in there, when you get ready to release that PTO and go in reverse to run all that water out the back, that's a good time to go ahead and look at your gauges. Make sure all your gauges are working. Make sure everything looks good in that truck. Make sure your fire extinguisher's there. Everything's there. When you get that truck and you get ready to pull up and go over there and wash the back off where you just washed out, it's a great time to put the rear flashers on. Go ahead and do that. Set your brakes. Make sure that when you're back there washing it off, look at those tail lights and see if they're obscured in any way. Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I was just distracted driving. I want to get back to that real quick. The handheld devices, we use Southern Link radios, just like I did when I worked for the state. Okay. Right. We've only had an issue in one county, Glenn County, down in Brunswick. They wrote my guy up for being on a cell phone. When we went to court, the judge absolutely would not listen, and he read the first page of the handheld law, which covered cell phones. But right. It specifically says one button, push to talk, two-way radios are allowed.
It does.
And that's all a Southern Link is. Now, my guys aren't allowed to scroll through it while they're driving, but they can pick it up just like a CB radio and talk back to one another, or to the, right. It's usually from the dispatch to them anyway. They don't have to look at the screen or anything. And we disputed that. They suspended it, but they would not admit that we could use them. They said we couldn't use it.
Right. And so when I go in and do a federal review, Lee, and you know what, Lee, probably more what we're dealing with than me and you put together. You know the not the complexity, but you know the mentality we're dealing with.
Yeah.
The two-way radios were always questioned with the feds. And I told them that when they first did that, they did that for the CB. That's kind of where they wanted to go with that. And that push button to talk, it is dismissible. It is, but they're never going to admit that you can use it because you're taking your hand off the wheel, but you're taking your hand off the wheel to get a CB as well.
Right.
So if you can let one, you can let the other.
Right.
So if you're using, and it's like an old Nextel. I mean, that's basically what it's the same concept, right, Lee?
Right. And I tried to explain to the judge. I actually did CRs and SAs with MCCD for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And we had this same dispute. I used to tell them, you can use that.
Yes, you can.
But this one, 159 counties and 158 of them have been easy to deal with, but not Glenn County.
They're right. And now they've got the biggest Buc-ee's in the world. So they're really going to be hard to deal with.
Yeah, we poured a lot of their concrete.
I'm sure you did. And I'm looking forward to going into Buc-ee's tomorrow on my way to Panama City Beach to enjoy my weekend.
There you go.
But those two-way radios with the push button, they are allowed. And like Lee said, and you can refer to Lee or myself, either one. But if you need to go to court with that, you can go to court with that, and you can win that with the regulation. Regulation basically tells you that you can use it. State law is the same way. It's going to mimic the same thing. They mimic the regulation. But Glenn County is tough. I mean, Glenn County writes their own rules, and they want to abide by those own rules that they have.
Yeah.
And Kyle Williams, I don't know if you know Kyle Lee or not, but
I know of him. Yes.
yeah, Kyle, I agree with you 100%. You can use that two-way all day long.
That's it.
I know an MCCD captain down there around Darien that smokes a lot of cigars and drinks a lot of brandy at night, but he would agree with you too, that you can use them.
Not Captain Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. But he agrees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate you bringing that up because nobody, not a lot of companies use that, and it's good to use it. It's just like having your own CB without all the other crap going on.
Yep.
So with that, and I know Lee could probably, doing this for a living too, could probably just exasperate on what all else you're going to cover and go over and look at. There's nothing on that vehicle that we're not going to look at. If you got a good officer that does a good level 1, a level 2, or a level 3, that's what they're going to do. A level 2 inspection is a very good post trip, is what it is. What we do in a level 1 is the same thing you're going to get out of Appendix G when it comes to doing how an annual inspection should be done. So here's a little something I'll tell you about my days at the agency when I was doing reviews inside carriers. Out of the 878 reviews that I did in 2023 and 2024, I did more than that back then, but I kind of started keeping up with it in those 2 years. Not one time did I have an annual inspection form that had any greasy fingerprints on it. Never was wadded up. Doesn't look like it had a little oil maybe had dripped on it. Didn't have a palm print from here where somebody had set their finger down to write on it. And only one out of all of them had a needs repair, repaired by and fixed, and had an invoice attached to it. Every annual inspection I ever get is good, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Same day of the annual inspection, I have 5 or 6 invoices. Well, carrier, why is everything good on the annual inspection, but you got 5 invoices here where you fixed brakes, you had an airline replaced, one of the tires had to be fixed, a windshield wiper had to be replaced, and you took and put a new oil cap on because the oil cap was leaking out because the seal was bad on it. Oh, well, we caught all that morning. Oh, and that's why we went ahead and did the annual inspection after we did all that and make sure everything else was good. Okay, where's DVIR? What DVIR? Well, you said you caught it this morning. I guess it was during the pre-trip, right? No. It'd been up at the shop. And I said, so in other words, you did an annual inspection. And when you inspected it, you found all this. You fixed it. You got the invoices, but everything was good on the. Well, yeah, we fixed it, so now everything's good. I said, well, then why do they put the needs repair on there? Or, the block that NA, if you don't even need it. Oh, I don't know. We just always check them good. So that's when you go and you ask the mechanics, do you know where to go find all the violations that you found? Where do you find the out of service limit on, see, Courtney, where do you find the information on out of service limit for a 30 long stroke, on a 30 chamber? If they don't know how to get that, and they can't tell me where to go and find the steering wheel lash measurements, probably going to disqualify those annual inspections. So make sure your mechanics know. That's kind of the end of the line right there, is knowing what those mechanics are certified. They have their certification forms, and you have proof of that certification. So if anybody has any questions about that, let me know. And if not, I'm going to roll into this new health card thing that has confused everybody. We good? We are good.
I don't see anyone that's got questions, Kevin. I think you did a good job covering that.
Can you see this ugliness now and not the screen?
I see that ugliness.
All right, as long as you see the ugliness, that's all that matters. So the new medical card requirements. The way this is supposed to work, and you got to realize this is the state, no offense, Lee, and the federal government trying to do something together. It's like the Congress and the Senate trying to decide on something and agreeing on it. So what is supposed to be happening right now is a driver supposed to go and get their physical done. The medical examiner has until the end of the day, and at the end of that day, they're supposed to upload to the system, our system, or the Fed system and DDS, the results of those physicals and copies of those medical certificates or the health cards. And those will automatically be reflected on the MVR. So within 24 hours, you should have the ability to go in and pull the MVR. So now in your driver qualification file for your credit, per the regulation, you have one document, that MVR. That MVR shows the issue date, the expiration date of the card. It shows the medical examiner's information and their registry number. So where you used to have to keep the card, have the MVR, and do the check on the National Registry to make sure they're registered, now they can't upload it unless they are registered. If you're not registered, can't upload a card. And I'm sure somebody will figure out how to bypass that before it's over. But right now, you should be able to pull that MVR within 24 hours. So has everybody seen the new waiver that came out a few days ago about reverting back to what we were doing? About now you have up to 15 days for that to reflect on the MVR. Everybody seen that or know about that? Okay. So now you can go back to the way you were, to keeping the card, getting a copy of the card, and doing your normal checks, and you have 15 days for that to get on. And if I remember correctly, and I will go in here and make sure that I'm remembering this correctly, that is going to be until October, when the waiver expires.
Yeah, I believe the memo I saw, it did show that it was going to go through October of this year.
Yeah, I got the memo. It's the waiver is effective July 14th, 2025, and expires on October 12th. So just try to make sure that you have everything in order by October 12th. That's the government saying that all the states have said they will be in compliance, and all of the MEs and medical examiners saying they will have the ability to upload everything as it's supposed to be by that date. So we've kind of kicked the can down the road another few months. Any questions about that or what your requirements are going forward after October the 12th?
Kevin, I got a question, buddy.
Okay.
So by regulation, does the roadside officer still accept the medical card for 30 days from the date of issue to allow everything to be uploaded?
So right now, that 15-day waiver, from what I was told yesterday, or I'm sorry, today's Thursday, what I was told Tuesday, is a roadside officer pulls that driver over and he pulls that SIDLS report and it's not on there, and that driver can produce that card and show that he's in the system. I mean, he's got his new card, that driver will be able to accept that. I mean, that officer will be able to accept that card, even though it's not on the SIDLS report, because where some states are, the minute it expires, your license is going to be downgraded. Now they're going to give that 15-day buffer. So if that officer, you pull out a card, Jamie, you pull out a card that says, hey, I just got my physical yesterday on the 16th, then that officer is going to be able to accept that because of this new waiver. But once this waiver is done, when the officer pulls that SIDLS report and it's not on that, they're out of service.
Okay,
And
I got one more question too. On the driver's file, so we're no longer required to have a copy of their medical card in the driver's file, just the NVR will suffice.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
that NVR is going to suffice that medical card. But because of the shortcuts that have happened, now just keep doing what you're doing until October 12th.
Okay.
But if you can, so my wife is a safety director for a trucking company, and right now all of hers are being uploaded as soon as they do it. So the ones that are uploaded, as soon as they do it, she's just pulling the NVR. She's not even collecting those cards anymore. But for the cards that you had for the past, prior to June 25th, you still need to keep those cards in there. Because if they came in and said, Kevin and Jamie, we've got DQ files. We've got the DQ file for us, and we have our NVR where we just got our new cards. We have the NVR to prove it, but you still have to maintain that prior card. So make sure that other card's still in there until your retention period is over, and then you can get rid of them, and eventually they'll file their way out to where all you have is that NVR left. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So that's all with that. If anybody else has any questions, I'm going to cover one more little thing, then I'll be done. The English proficiency test. Have you seen this yet, Lee?
I have not.
Ain't much to it. If your driver has any paperwork in that truck, they're going to be asked to read that paperwork, like a bill of lading. If your driver has a DVIR in there, they're going to be asked to read it. They're going to be shown a book that has road signs in it. And not your common road signs. These are like lane ending, merging things. They're going to be asked, what does this roadside mean and what does it say? The big signs, the information signs that go up over the highways that have like, road closed at exit 6B or something like that. They're going to be given an example of one of those signs, or can be. That can be one of the choices the officer can make. I need you to read that sign to me. The officers cannot get anybody on a translator. No translators can be used. You can't go to Google Translate, ask the driver the question in Spanish because he doesn't really understand you, but he talks pretty good English. He's got to be able to understand you in English when you ask, and the driver's got to be able to articulate and speak back to you in English enough to where you feel that this driver understands the English language enough to get through a roadside inspection, communicate with an officer during an emergency or an inspection, and that driver could speak to a federal officer if that federal officer needed to speak with them with anything, and understands our roadway signs as so put on highways. I'm in the middle of getting my hands on the book that all the officers will have. And Joseph, as soon as I get that, I'll shoot you a copy of it and you can get it out to everybody. But this will also need to be implemented in your hiring practices. So when they find a driver that does not pass the test, that driver is also going to be placed out of service. That's also going to go on your SMS under that out of service. And under that out of service in 391, you're going to, next time or when you get an audit or a safety review, those are going to come up and they're going to look at your policies on hiring. And do you question your drivers? Do you test your drivers? Are you giving them road signs to look at, to test from? If you want to see some of those road signs, you can Google MUTCD and just, I mean, this thing's like 1,500 pages. You ever seen it, Lee? It's the book of road signs, what they all mean, how big they got to be, and all that good stuff.
I actually have not. I will now.
It's the manual on uniform traffic control devices. That's where MCCD and all the state officers and county officers and everybody, and county can do this too. That's where they all get the road signs to pick from. And this is basically where every road sign in the world has to meet this criteria, and they have those road signs in there. So I will get everything I can get on that and send it to Joseph and get it out to everybody. And I will, if you have any issues with the MEC or the medical cards, anything like that going forward with all this issues they're having, you can always feel free to reach out to me with any questions you got. My email address is kevin@spartantransportationllc.com. Just let me know if you got any issues, or if you get cited with something that you don't agree with or something like that. I can help you with the data queue process, stuff like that. It's really easy. But other than that, I mean, I'm done. Unless anybody's got any questions.
Anyone got any questions? We have the man on the line, so now's the time. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone.
You can shoot me an email later if you want to. It doesn't matter. Or
Yes.
if you're ever in this area and you'd like to just buy food, I mean, you can email me then too. Joseph always says he's going to buy, but he never does.
Well, we'll let Bill, since Bill wasn't on, we'll let Bill buy. So
That sounds good.
You come to Jessup. I'll take you to Jones Kitchen. Can't beat it.
Hey, I've already been there, and you go ahead and just expect me to be in Jessup.
All right. Come on.
We'll invite the good captain too.
Hey, I hadn't seen Tony in a while.
Yeah, I talk to him about every other day.
well, Kevin,
I've
I
been
do
gone for 10
appreciate.
years. So. Sorry, Joseph.
No, you're good, Lee. Kevin, I do appreciate you taking the time, and very good information. And I believe for some it was maybe a review, and then maybe I think hopefully some others took some away. Looks like James might have a question. James?
This is my first time coming in this meeting, and I really enjoyed it. It's very informative. So will that contact information be emailed out?
Yes,
Yeah.
Emily can email out Kevin's information if that's okay with Kevin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And tell Pete if he don't call me, he's in trouble. Lots of trouble. I'm gonna call South Carolina and just tell them, hey, did you hear about night transportation trucks? They've got like pictures of MCCD officers in it that, wearing tutus and stuff. Y'all need to pull them over and see what's going on.
I'm sure Pete will love to have that conversation.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Pete at the down in Amelia Island. I was a speaker at their Carolina Ready Mix Concrete Association down there a few weeks back. And I got to clown around with Pete a little bit and his safety guy over there that you can't understand all the time, but he's a great guy. He talks too fast.
That would be Thad.
Yeah.
Thad Wharton.
Me and Thad go a long way back, and I always tell him, what did you say? I can't, you shut up right now. But
Well, it's my first one. I really enjoyed it. Very informative. I'm picking up on the driving side of things, working with our safety specialists. So, if like your PowerPoints are good resources, I really appreciate it. Any way I can get involved with that. I thank you
Joseph,
for the-
I'll send, and I appreciate that, James. And just tell Pete and them I said hey, and that you met me today.
I'll do that.
Yeah, and tell him just keep racing. To stay out of the trucks and stay in the race car, because that's where he's best.
Yes.
But Joseph, I'll send you the PowerPoint, and you can put that out if anybody wants it.
All right.
Thank you for your service. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, Kevin, again, thanks. Always good to hear from you. Let us know if we can help you in any way, and we appreciate your time, sir.